one of the most iconic songs that everybody in the world knows. And I'm thrilled to welcome back Patricia for part 2, because one time is not enough to learn about this legend. My wonderful guest today is the film historian, official biographer, and widow of a legendary dancer, choreographer, director, singer, and actor, Mr. Gene Kelly. They met in 1985 in Washington while working on a documentary about the Smithsonian. Gene was the host and Patricia was a writer on it. She'd never heard of him, she'd never seen his movies, and the rest is history. Married 5 years later on July 20th, 1990, Patricia spent 10 years recording him every day, sometimes scribbling on napkins, sugar packets, and 85 filing cabinets later, we have Patricia to thank for preserving his legacy and giving us all an in-depth look into the man and the legend. Once said to have wanted to be a shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates, we're sure glad his brother Fred got him into dancing. I think Patricia said it best. He is a comet that flies through the air only once. Ladies and gentlemen, Patricia Ward Kelly. I just love this.
We've got a lot of people all around the world. I saw Brazil just checked in and quite a few from London, so that's great.
Fantastic. Oh, great. So while I was doing that, you could see everybody coming in. I think we had Texas, London. I love it. Well, you know, he's loved around the world, Patricia, and we love you for keeping his legacy alive. So thank you for all that you do and the stories that you tell us, because without you, we wouldn't have the exact stories. We have what Google tells us, which isn't always right?
No, very often it's not. That's why I tell everybody just to reach out to me, because so much, I mean, essentially, almost all of what is in print about Gene is not accurate, and it's really sad, and it drove him crazy. He called it errata, and but as I said before, I guess the grand irony of that is that if everybody had done a perfect job of recording his story, he wouldn't have brought me out to California. So it's kind of a funny little twist there.
That's funny, isn't it? Yeah, thank goodness then, right?
After we spoke last time, I dug out some things that I wanted to just share with you. These are kind of more personal things, but I told you last time that Gene used to leave little notes for me all around the house for my birthday and for Valentine's Day and Christmas, and he was very funny. As I said, he was like a little boy, because he couldn't wait. The minute it turned midnight, then I would start finding these things sprinkled around and this funny little notes. But then he usually gave me, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to, I think you can see it.
Yes.
But he would give me these beautiful little Limoges boxes all the time, little decorated ones. And then what he would do is that he would open them up, and you might be able to see in there. Let's see if you can see.
Oh, how gorgeous.
So he took a little red felt pen and then put a heart inside. And
God, you're so romantic.
This is another one that he gave. And
my God.
And this one, he did a whole little note inside. So, but they're just, I have them all on a table. Actually, it's on the table here behind me in my office. And then I thought I would share something that's kind of funny. This was actually the first time that we went out to a gala evening together, and this is the photo.
Oh, that is beautiful.
It's beautiful, but my mother said, she said, "You look like a deer in the headlights." I'd never experienced anything like this. I mean, it was. We got out of the car. It was at the Beverly Hilton Hotel here in Los Angeles, and we got out of the car, and everyone, all of the photographers were just lined up. It was like this big phalanx of cameramen and reporters, and I started to hear my name, and my maiden name is Patricia Ward, and so I heard. Everybody's whispering, saying, "Who's the girl with Gene Kelly? Who's with Gene Kelly?" And I heard Patricia Ward, and it just sort of rolled all the way down this whole long line as I heard her name. And everybody's wondering, who is this new girl on his arm? And I got it. The tabloids all published this, and everybody, assumed this is millions of dollars of a necklace around my neck. And I had gotten it. It's a vintage piece, and I think it's just paste. I got it for about $8.95. But it hit the light hit it, and it made a great story.
It looked good, and also Gene didn't like, he didn't like ostentatious things, so I'm sure he loved the fact that you were wearing a necklace that was paste.
And he's giving a little, a typical sign for him was a thumbs up. He would do.
Oh.
So I was very lucky that I got a thumbs up in that. So that was
you look beautiful, and that must have been so overwhelming to meet a blanket of paparazzi like that. Well, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you before was, when you go to a gala like that or a ball, do you dance together? Do people want to come in and dance with you? Does he dance with other people? How does that work when you with someone like Gene?
Well, Gene would not dance in public. So he and Fred Astaire had figured out, because the minute Gene stood up, everyone in the room wanted to dance with him. And so he and Fred Astaire came up with this thing that they would pretend to have bad legs. And so they'd just stand in the corner and they'd say, no, bad legs. And so I'm sitting with Gene, and nobody is going to ask me to dance since I'm sitting next to him. So no, we never danced in public, but we did dance in private in the house. And it was such a romantic thing. And I really encourage everyone to go out and take ballroom dancing lessons, because it is such a romantic thing to be able to, as Gene said, you put your arm around the girl, you can hold her tight. And that was his form of courtship growing up. But to have Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra on the stereo, and this wonderful music playing, and as we had champagne and caviar, and it just was an incredibly romantic time. And
I can imagine.
There's several moments I would love to recreate with him. I mean, that you want to kind of hold on to and have again, and that's definitely one of them, because it was just it's almost too magical to
I can only imagine. Did he, were you had you danced before? Did he teach you to dance? Did he say, do this, do that?
No, and no. I was absolutely not a dancer. I had been sent to dancing school when I was young, because I had this extraordinary amount of energy. And so, but I had absolutely no talent whatsoever in ballet. I remember that my father sent Gene a VHS tape of me in a homemade blue tutu doing the Mexican hat dance. And Gene's response was, "Oh, Christ," and he turned it off. So no, I actually snuck out to take dance classes so that I could learn on the sly, on the off chance that I would ever get an opportunity to dance with him. So I learned, and I need to go back and brush up on it, because outside of Gene, I never was able to do it with anyone. So I've lost all my skill. I need to go back and.
I'll go with you. We'll go and do dance classes together.
I think it's great exercise. And
yes.
I also was thinking, I've always wanted to do a ballet bar, because I think it is the great exercise, even though I wasn't adept at the dancing. But I think even Sid Charisse continued almost up until the very end of her life. She did a ballet bar as exercise, and
every day.
So
ballet is everything.
That'll be something to do.
Yes, absolutely. And ballet is the core. And I think you said last time that ballet for Gene was like so important, because it was the core to the root of all his dancing, right?
It really was. He really felt that you needed to have that basic training and that long line of the body. And then from there you can go off and modify it. But to study that essential basic training, the classical line, and then you can go off and experiment with the modern and the jazz and everything else, the tap. I don't think a lot of dancers are doing that so much anymore. I think they tend to specialize in one thing, And his advice was to really study the breadth of movement, and then you're able to pick and choose. And as you're playing different roles, you can use different styles, because tap dancing doesn't always fit with every character you're going to play, and
No.
ballet doesn't always fit with every character. So he really encouraged everyone to study everything, not only dance, but as I told you, history, politics, economics, literature, poetry. He really
Yes.
thought that you needed to have a full understanding of a lot of subjects in order to really understand your art. And he went to when he was studying classical ballet in Chicago, he went to the University of Chicago Library and read all of the history of dance in French, because most of it was not translated yet. And so he understood the fundamentals of the movement, but he also understood the history of it. And I think that's gotten lost too, that a lot of people, for example, in this whole discussion of men dancing, and some people,
Yes.
it's odd that men dance. Men always danced, and men began dancing, and they were dancing in the courts, and the women were not dancing. And so
Yeah.
it's really not until Balanchine said that ballet is woman that it began to take on a connotation with women. But Jean was always saying, no, 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 you've got to look at the history. So,
and it's so strong and it's so masculine. And no, I don't want to hash up what happened a year ago with a presenter that said something derogative about Prince George, mimicking, taking the Mickey, as we say in England, out of him doing ballet classes. And I know it upset you greatly that they would say this, that, well, how long is that going to last, kind of thing, for someone doing ballet, because that was very upsetting for all male dancers, wasn't it? And I know it upset you.
I think it's it's tired. It's really just somebody didn't do their homework. And
Yeah.
it really does go back to a failure to understand the history. And Gene explained a lot of it, not only in his one-man show, the Omnibus television special in 1958, Dancing a Man's Game, but also in That's Dancing, when he goes back and looks at the historic the cave dwellers and the people, and how dance was depicted and who was doing the dancing. So I think we just need to educate people. Unfortunately, we have to do it again. And
we still have to do it.
I'll just keep hammering out there. And
Yes.
it's very, very nice. I appreciate your comments about Jean's legacy and everything and the work I do. And the nice thing is that Jean's legacy is a very easy one to represent, because he was a man of such dignity and such integrity and such decency. And really, as I'm going back now and getting back into working on the book about him, as I read his words and absorb them again, it's just, he just chimes with this really remarkable sense of humanity and of our relationship in the world. And I think that I was thinking about it a lot, especially with what's been going on in the last couple of weeks with all of the protesters and everything. And I decided on the Legacy Facebook pages and Instagram and everything that I would basically go back, because Gene was colorblind. Gene broke barriers. He only saw dance and as a way to be inclusive. And he did insist that he danced with the Nicholas brothers in The Pirate. Yeah. And the head of the studio, L.B. Mayer, said, no, I mean, he didn't say no, that Gene could not do it. He just said it will be cut out of the picture in various states in the South and various countries. And Gene said, well, I'm insisting I will do this. I will dance with these two men. And so he did do the number, and it was revolutionary, because it just was not done that you would have a white man dancing with two black men.
And people should Google it, because it really is. I re-looked at it yesterday and it really is a beautiful number with the three of them.
Well, and it's interesting, and it was indeed cut out of many, and the theaters would just go in and snip that out in the various states in the South. But one thing that's interesting, when